think necessity is the mother of invention, and we're seeing that in this conflict. Ukraine is the weaker party. There's no denying that. It has a smaller armed forces. It's facing a massive and mighty Russia. But what we've seen throughout this war is the Ukrainians using ingenuity and technology to find ways to circumvent Russia's might. So we've seen that with the evolution of these drones. What the strike on the Sergei Kotov perhaps represents is that Ukraine's tactics are continuing to evolve, and they're continuing to find new ways to use the weapons they have, ways to circumvent Russia's defenses. And that may or may not, but it's almost certainly linked to some of the operations we've seen on land, some of those special forces operations which have been designed to take out early warning systems, radar, air defense batteries, perhaps coastal radar batteries. Every piece of the jigsaw that Ukraine can pull down makes Russian forces more vulnerable. The air defense is perhaps more significant with the cruise missile strikes that we've also seen, because if we look at this in the broad brush, what we've got on the one hand is these homegrown, homemade, Ukrainian designed and produced Magura drones having devastating effects at ships at sea. In parallel, we've seen the British and French donated Storm Shadow and Scalp cruise missiles, which are some of the most high-tech missiles that Ukraine has been given by its Western allies. Those missiles have been evading Russian air defenses, landing inside Crimea, hitting static targets. Mostly we saw them hit a Kilo class submarine and another landing ship. Those were both in dry docks and they weren't moving. These missiles have also been used to hit the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea Fleet. But taken together, cruise missiles attacking from the air, the sea drones attacking from the sea, both finding ways to circumnavigate, to invade Russia's defenses, and clearly having a huge impact. In terms of how humiliating it is for Vladimir Putin, well, I suppose in one sense that depends on how much this is being reported inside Russia. But the news does tend to seep out onto the Telegram channels of the military bloggers. It is perhaps hard for him to deny. And yet, for all Russia's losses, there seems to be a sense of acceptance and determination, resignation perhaps, that Russia is going to lose huge numbers of men, huge numbers of equipment in order to just keep slogging away at this conflict. That appears to be the Russian strategy, which is just to keep throwing resources into the meat grinder. Ukraine's strategy is to try and preserve the lives of its soldiers as it fights this incredibly difficult battle to reclaim territory. Ukraine did a fantastic job, has done a fantastic job over the last 2 years of not just halting Russia's advance, but reversing it in large part. It has reclaimed about half the territory that Russia seized in those first few weeks of the war 2 years ago. But Ukraine, the advances come at a big cost for Ukraine as well. President Zelensky said recently that he said that Ukraine had lost 31,000 soldiers who've been killed in action. That is a huge number. There is a feeling that perhaps that is also an underestimate. Of course, it doesn't speak to the multiples of that figure, which will represent the number of people who've also been wounded. But nonetheless, Zelensky has been clear that his military tactics and his political direction has been to try and achieve Ukraine's objectives as far as possible by all simultaneously protecting and preserving the lives of its soldiers. Now clearly that is impossible to fight a war without casualties, but nonetheless the message from Ukraine is that what they are trying to do is to use technology, is to use the means at their disposal to try and defeat, degrade Russia using weapons and technology rather than simply sacrificing soldiers' lives.
Правую ногу вперед. Екатерина. Дальше пожалуйста. Левой рукой держите, правой становитесь на кресло. Левой ногой. Секундочку, руку. Так, гарнитуру. Пожалуйста, спасибо. Так, стрелять будет? Молодец, правильно. Все хорошо. Тренажерный клуб